Allies, enemies, and those yet unaligned, howdy and welcome to yet another episode of Metamour Than You Bargained for. I am your host, Lyn Lawless. On this show, we read stories from across the internet and give our questionable advice, but the twist is everything is going to revolve around non-monogamy. Yeah. All right, my limited perspective, it's going to be offset by the wide variety of guests I get to feature, and today I got 2 guests. How exciting is that? I have actual metamours on my Metamour podcast. Ugh. All right, I'm going to stop being so goofy. All right, take the mic away from me, you two. Holly, go first.
Let's see. I've been poly for about 15 years at this point, and I am also working on art. And if you're interested, that is on lovely.littlelesbian on Instagram.
Hell yeah, Nita, tell us all about it.
All right. So I have been poly for it's got to be pushing 20 years at this point. I am recently married with my nesting partner, and I have a girlfriend of I think we just had our 6-year anniversary, and one comet, who I see like once a year-ish. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm a musician, and
seeing a partner once a year, that's real tough sometimes. How are you handling that?
Well, we're kind of hands off. We text back and forth in the year, but we're pretty low priority for each other outside of, when we do get to see each other. And it is always kind of a journey getting to, come back together and be like, okay, so where are you at this year? What's going on? How are we feeling about each other? Where's everybody's energy? And it changes.
Intense conversations to have in the little time you have together.
Yeah. Well, and where's everybody's brains at? Because, last year we got to hang out a little bit, but, there was a lot less sort of physicality because of a variety of other issues. And we're very good at this point at kind of having whatever happens, I don't know, pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the trust to go through that, like coming together after being apart for a while. Holly, you mentioned that you have 3 primary partners. Do you have any kind of like comments? Or is that like not something that you do, or do you just do it sometimes? What about you with the quick little like maintaining relationships here and then having lives separate?
So my primary partner is my nesting partner, and Nita's nesting partner is actually our hinge, so they're long distance with me. And then I think I said less than 3. So yeah. So I don't have any other primary partners. I had a very exciting ramp, and I would say I met someone I would call a wrecking ball recently. So some of my longer relationships didn't survive.
Not a comet, but a meteor.
Yeah. And some of the less stable of my sort of short-term relationships didn't survive it. So I'm kind of content right now with my 2 that I have, and then a handful of friends with benefits, because I just don't know how to say no.
It's okay to have a high libido, Holly.
You're allowed to be a horny little shit. You made a whole character about it. It's fine. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to jump us in. Meta. All right, so this one says, my spouse has twice now invited one of his partners over to our house without telling or asking me while I am asleep. Oh, yeah. To make a long story short, we have always asked each other before inviting our partners or even our friends over to our place of living. About a month ago, I woke up for work to discover my husband had his partner over. I was very upset, and we argued in the morning while they were intoxicated, and I was still tired from waking up. And then later we talked about it when it was both, and then later we talked about it when we were both more sound of mind, and we discussed how he's never done this before, and how he's always asked to have a partner over. But he's even woken me up in the middle of the night to ask, and I've always said yes, so I don't understand why he didn't this time. He argued that it felt like I was being controlling, and I explained that I'm not trying to control him. We've always informed each other before inviting someone over because we share a living space, and I want to continue that. But it is now a month later. I went to bed early due to feeling sick last night, and and in the middle of the night, our 9-month-old daughter woke up crying. My husband was not in bed, and I couldn't get her back to sleep. I was feeling very sick, so I called for him and asked for him to help. He came upstairs, took her downstairs to feed and change and calm her down, and then he brought her back up and gave her to me, and I laid her on my chest, and he went back downstairs. An hour-ish later, she was asleep, and I asked him for help to get her back into the crib because I wasn't feeling well enough to do it safely. He came upstairs and got her back in the crib and let me know that he was on the phone with one of his partners and doing some art downstairs, and that he would come to bed in just a bit after he finished his painting, so I went back to sleep. Later, I wake up still feeling awful, and I notice my husband is not in bed yet at 4:30 a.m. This is about an hour before my work alarm goes off. I worriedly call my partner to make sure he's okay, and he informed me that he is fine and his partner is over and they are watching a movie. I become angry at hearing this and hang up and try to go back to sleep. I can't, so I call him again and ask if he's okay with coming upstairs because I have to get up soon, and our daughter will be awake soon, and I want him to get at least a few hours of sleep before she wakes up and he has to go to work. He comes upstairs cross-faded as hell and lays in bed and tries to cuddle me. I tell him I'm not feeling good and I'm going to go ahead and get up and get ready for work. He asks if I'm upset with him and I tell him yes. But I don't want to talk about it right now because I'm still tired and feeling sick, so I'm not in the right headspace for this emotional discussion. He asks if it's about the partner he invited over, which, to be fair, I don't like that partner and I've told him that, but I'm not going to stop him from dating just because I'm not a fan of the person. Anyway, I said it is related to him, but it's not about him, and I started getting up. He asked me to explain, and I say it's because he invited him over without asking or informing me, and my husband frustratedly said he thought we talked about this and that he was allowed to. I said I thought we talked about it too, and we needed to ask each other first. But either way, I'm too sick and tired to talk about it right now, and I don't want to argue. So we both take a minute to calm down. We tell each other we love each other, and then I go take a shower. I don't want to be controlling, but this is an important boundary for me, and I have 2 questions. Am I being controlling or unreasonable about this? And if not, what is the best way for me to resolve this issue? If so, why and what tools do you recommend I use to unlearn this behavior of mine? First off, hats off to OP for that.
Legit.
It takes a very big person to be able to say, like, I don't like them, but you're dating them and I respect that. But, like, also, if you're doing that, you also need to recognize, like, is it about you or is it about them when you feel that way? Because I've definitely had my partner say, I don't like this person. And then, like, a week later, I go, ooh, they did that thing and I don't like them either.
One would hope that our partners are reasonably good judges of character because they are choosing to date us.
Yes. Very true.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, like, that OP is acknowledging, it's bad to have these conversations when you're not feeling well and when you're tired or when you're cross-faded as shit. And, you need to take time apart and figure shit out and, take a shower or whatever, go breathe, go to work. That's hard to do because sometimes you just get so fucking heated that you're like, I need to resolve this right now or I'm going to be sick the rest of the day. Like, which kind of sick is going to be worse for you? The sick of waiting for this conversation or the sick of, whatever the result of this conversation may be? You got to figure that out for yourself.
You have to be careful because I'm definitely one of those people where, like, I will get all wound up and then it's like 2-3 days later where I realize, like, oh, that is why I'm upset, or I've, like, it's all blown over. And I never know in the moment. So I always have to say, like, I'm wound up. Give me 2-3 days. If I've calmed down, then it's no big deal. And whatever, I had feelings. And if I'm still upset, then we have to talk about it.
I had this problem. So my first marriage was an absolute clusterfuck 6 ways from Sunday. And a lot of what I was dealing with coming out of that was an inability to tell what I was feeling about something because I wasn't really allowed to have feelings about a lot of things. I was certainly not allowed to have or express negative emotions about most things. And because I was trying to protect myself, I was not really terribly emotionally aware about myself for a really long time. And so when I was first realizing that I was allowed to be upset about things and that it was okay, that it was okay to acknowledge how I felt about something, the feelings were so overwhelming that I felt like I had to handle the thing then and there. And this would happen in my marriage as well, that I would basically go, ignoring something until it felt so overwhelming that it felt like the world would end unless we handled the thing right then, right there, in order to take care of how I felt. And none of that is healthy. None of that is healthy. Oh my God.
Oh, goodness.
Like, there's a healthy medium somewhere in there, but I think you blew past it and didn't take a left turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Okay, we all have our variances. I mean, like, OP even, is like, hey, I asked him if he's okay coming upstairs to do this and that and what the other. Going to whether the OP is controlling or unreasonable, I think all of us agree, no, it's not controlling or unreasonable. Like, they have a baby in the house, like a new baby. 9 months old is still new. So, like, the door opening and closing or, watching a loud movie, whatever, can affect the baby.
The whole situation here, I have so many questions.
Oh, yes. Like, why are you having someone over all night? Like, I'm an insomniac, but my goodness, I don't invite people over when my nesting partner is asleep.
When my fucking partner is sick and has a 9-month-old and is taking care of a 9-month-old when they're sick and they have to be at work the following morning. Holy fuck!
Husband would rather be downstairs getting cross-faded with a new partner than taking care of the baby. Like, OP shouldn't have had to call husband and have husband go get the baby out of, the crib. Like, did she text him before she called him? Did she be like, hey, where are you? Can you help? And then he didn't respond to the text and then she called him? Or, like, how did that go? But yeah, what were you going to say, Nita? I saw you lean towards the microphone.
This is the part where I'm just like, his wife is sick. Why is he not on baby duty? Like, everybody has their own way of handling childcare, if they're breastfeeding, whether or not the baby will take a bottle. Like, I mean, they did specifically say, he takes her downstairs and, feeds her, takes care of her, and then brings her back up and puts her on mom. And it feels like the priorities are so out of whack here.
Yes. That's I think one of the things throwing me off.
It's just, he's just in a different universe.
But
even giving all of the benefits of the doubt. Like, it feels like the fact that he's inviting someone over without asking her is honestly the least of the problems here.
But
also, though, if he's crossing this boundary, what other boundaries might he be crossing and not saying dick about?
I want to know what got said that she thought they understood. You ask before you bring someone over, and he thought...
Yes, I was about to say. Yeah. That's honestly... I feel like it's important to have like a TLDR kind of thing at the end of big conversations with partners and stuff like that, because you can touch on so many different topics, but being like hey, is this where we landed about this?
Yes, that's...
But at the same time, I understand, they were so tired of arguing and whatnot, they just wanted it to be resolved and they go to bed and yada yada. But it's so crucial to be like, are we on the same page at the end of this discussion?
But it happened a month ago, so I'm wondering, like, is he hoping like she's forgotten? Or is it that she said something that was kind of vague? And that's not to throw anyone under the bus, but that's just the like...
Yep. And so like, I guess to wrap this story up a bit, like, since she's not being controlling or unreasonable, the way that I would suggest trying to work on resolving this is, coming to the agreement that, hey, you shouldn't be having people over without talking to me about it first, because at minimum, waking up with someone in your house is weird as shit.
Oh, that is upsetting.
And B, when they're having conversations like this, I feel like they should maybe have like a specific chat log or Google Doc where they put like the cliff notes of what was discussed, so that they can both like stay on the same page, so that if they're like, I feel like we talked about this recently, they can just control F in that document or whatever and see if y'all have already talked about it, already had a decision about it, yada, yada,
Google
yada.
Docs are great, especially if you are like long distance, because you can leave cute little notes, but you can also be like, oh, right, they like their coffee this way, and these are their allergies, because when you're not living on top of someone, like those day-to-day things become a problem, and you don't want to fight with those when like you don't see somebody often.
Holly, every single time you come to visit, I double and triple check with Pretty Boy to make sure that there is food in the house that you can eat, and that the things that I'm planning to cook are not going to make you sick. Because, which
I appreciate you so much.
Well, and because I'm not going to remember.
Okay.
Yes.
We are about to go on our quick break, but before we do, Nita here has brought a Reddit post in the form of a question to share with the group today. So, Nita, I'm going to pass it to you and give my little voice a
All
rest.
right. So, I'm a secondary to a couple that's been together for years. We've spent lots of time together for the last 3 months and decided to become a triad 2 months ago. We're all new to being poly, and I feel myself getting really attached to both of these people, but I don't feel they pursue me as strongly as I pursue them. We used to have strong communication for the first few months, but something feels different now. As someone whose love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch, I cherished the, quote, honeymoon phase where compliments and lust flowed naturally without prompt. Now that the newness has faded and their gestures have begun to subside, I'm left feeling insecure that I'm not doing/being enough for them. I've asked several times how I can best cater to how they express affection, but I'm never given any solid feedback. This worries me because I have unmet needs that I want to address, but I'm concerned about being, quote, too much. I'm worried because none of us have experience as a triad, and our dynamic feels more like AB plus C instead of A plus B plus C like I had anticipated. Is it normal to feel these growing pains as a secondary? I want to make this relationship work, but I'm worried about getting my heart hurt in the long run. What do I do?
Oh, sweet baby. This reads of 22 years
Like
old.
the sheer number of red flags that just pop up on this whole thing. Oh my God.
I have so many questions because I'm like, A, are they older than you? B, like, what is everybody's gender? Because my guess would be A and B are like hetero, and then this is a girl to speak, a woman speaking.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I worry so much about this person, like OP, because I'm worried they're definitely in the right to think A plus B plus C is how it should work. 3 independent people. But
it's hard to do. It's hard to unpack that much.
Yeah.
And they're new.
One of the primary things that this shows to me is this is a beautiful example of what couples privilege looks like from the perspective of not the couple. This is also a 3-month-old relationship. This is a 3-month-old relationship. And they decided to actually become a triad 2 months ago, after a month of dating.
Yeah, that's insanity.
Yep. I wonder if they dated as dyads during that month or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I'm wondering how much OP has gotten time alone with them.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, Holly, but before I completely lose this train of thought.
Yes, please.
Something that this smacks of to me, of course, is a unrecovered people pleaser that is trying to be overly accommodating because, they are insecure that they're not doing or being enough for them. And that is very much, in my opinion, like a telltale sign of someone who's a people pleaser because they always kind of feel that way. Whereas, like, if you're being yourself, you should feel enough as yourself, et cetera, et cetera. They ask how to cater, affection and stuff like that and aren't given solid feedback. But did the couple also ask that? Or is the couple trying to meet them halfway? Like, this might just be a case of they very quickly grew in polyamory and outgrew this couple.
But also, like, they do say, like, they asked, what can I do? And they didn't, it doesn't sound like, because you're talking about a people pleaser, and it doesn't sound like they have said also, hey, like, I need more of this. I need more of that.
Yeah, they said they have unmet needs that they want to address. It's almost like they're like, I can't mention my needs unless I know their needs.
This seems to me, it does seem like there's a lot of people pleasing going on here, but I also definitely feel like, why do they think they're going to be too much for this couple? Like, where is that coming from? Who's telling them that?
Like who in
the past told them that?
Yeah.
Is this something that they've been hearing from the couple? This sounds like they got unicorn hunted, and it sounds like they got unicorn hunted as basically a walking, talking sex toy, and now they're not new and shiny anymore. It sounds like they weren't ever really treated as a person with needs and desires of their own, and they're afraid of expressing those needs because maybe it looks like if they express them, they're going to be discarded because they're not actually being treated like a person to this couple.
Okay. Before I take us to break, either of you have any final advice? So they asked, is it normal to feel these growing pains as a secondary? It's not normal, but it's common.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not something you should normalize and you should be feeling, but unfortunately it happens a fuckload because so many couples don't take the time to take a step off the relationship escalator and unpack some of their couple's privilege. And, they say they want to make this relationship work, but they're worried about getting their heart hurt in the long run. I hate to break it to you, but most relationships are going to end. Like, it's just how they work, monogamous or polyamorous. There's going to be a lot of heartache along the way. It's just about figuring out where your boundaries are and figuring out how to call things before they get to the point of breaking your heart. You know what I mean?
And just one of the things, like, growing pains as a secondary. Like, if they are calling you their secondary, they're telling you that you are not as important.
Good shit. Okay. And now I get to sit back and have the luxury of someone else reading a story for the second time in this podcast. So pardon me while I hand it over to Holly.
I, 32F, am in a poly relationship with Ruby, my girlfriend of 11 years, and Louie, my boyfriend of 10 years. The three of us all date each other and are closed off to dating anyone outside of our current relationship. I never mentioned this to my coworkers because I never cared to. I don't tend to talk about my life while at work. A few weeks ago, though, my coworker Ken, who is aware I had a boyfriend, saw me making out with Ruby at a bar and took some pictures. He apparently started telling everyone that I was cheating on Louie and showed the pictures of Ruby and I. I had noticed that some people were giving me the cold shoulder, but I just figured it was something to do with my recent promotion. A few days ago, I was talking to my friend in the break room about her ex and mentioned how much I hate cheaters, which prompted Ken and a few of my other coworkers to start calling me out and tell me that I was a hypocrite. When I said that I never cheated, Ken confronted me with the pictures of Ruby and I at the bar and a picture of Louie and I on a date from last week. Ken kept asking, "So who are you dating?" while shoving his phone in my face. So I just brushed his arm aside and told him, "Both of them?" That only seemed to set him and the others off worse, and he started nagging me again, and I started laughing. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just actually found it funny how upset everyone was getting over my relationships that they had no idea about. He stopped talking after that and left. And I took that time to explain my relationship and showed pictures of all three of us, including ones of Ruby and Louie kissing, and I joked about him taking pictures like a stalker. Now a bunch of my coworkers are pissed that I quote-unquote hid my polyamory from them and are now saying that it's quote-unquote my fault that they now look like jerks for talking bad about me behind my back. Am I the a-hole for not telling my coworkers that I'm poly and subsequently laughing in their faces? Edit. Just to clear some things up, 1, Ken does not know either of my partners. He only knew about Louie and had no reasonable way of knowing if I was still with him at the time. Number 2, I was unaware of any of the pictures being taken until Ken showed me them. And 3, Ken was definitely stalking me, and I've been in contact with the police, so thank you to my coworkers who reached out with some info about that. Whew!
That's a massive number 3.
Number 3 just hanging out there like, oh, and then I found out that he has a body in his basement. Like, what? Coworkers reached out with info about that. I wonder if it was like because the post got popular or something. But yeah, wondering if Ken maybe was interested in OP.
Oh, 100%.
Or something. Ew.
Like, you're not the a-hole for not telling people you're dating.
Yeah.
Like, y'all
Nobody
are jerks.
is entitled to... Nobody's entitled to that information. Aside from people who, like, I would say that people who you are dating, I think, are entitled to the information about whether or not and possibly who you're dating. Like, that seems reasonable to me. The rest of it? No.
And jobs are such a microcosm. They're kind of like high
yeah.
school, you know what I mean? Like, some people just get so hungry for that drama. They look for it. They are... And the worst... One of the types of people that I dislike the most are the ones that feel like gossip is currency.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's because they don't have anything interesting to talk about. Go get a hobby.
Yeah, and it's the superiority that they always seem to feel when I can't believe that blah 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 blah. Like, no, fuck off with all that. Okay, there is an update.
There's a lot of updates.
Hit us with it, Holly. Tell us about the stalker.
Okay, update. I just got home, so here's an update of what's happened so far. Yesterday, a few of my coworkers saw my post and decided to let me know that he had been showing them more pictures than the ones I saw. A coworker in IT who was working last night read the post and looked in his company computer for any possible pictures, and there were a lot. When I talked to HR this morning, they were aware of both issues as IT had alerted them when they found the pictures and sent them a link to my post, and my friend who works here had also told HR the day it happened, even though I had told her originally not to worry about it, but they couldn't do anything until I made a report. The pictures obviously changed that. Ken was definitely stalking me. He was immediately fired, and we ended up having to get police involved because it was determined that I was in immediate danger. I do have a temporary restraining order before the court date, but he is currently with the police. HR had me go home early today, and honestly, I'm exhausted. When I originally posted this, I didn't really take this situation seriously. I just figured it was a coworker just wanting some drama to spread, and I just happened to be the prime candidate. Ken had always been a bit of a creepy, quote-unquote, nice guy, but never thought much of it, and when I laughed and called him a stalker, I never would have expected that to be so true. Louie and Ruby were able to take some time off and are spending the day with me at home, cuddling and watching movies, so if anyone has any good movie recommendations, please let me know. I'm exhausted and ready for all this to be over. Thank you all so much for everything. You all made me open my eyes to the real situation when I was laughing it all off as weird coworkers.
I definitely would have fallen victim to the whole not suspecting Ken of stalking, because I see people that I know all the time at like the grocery store and home goods stores and stuff like that, you know? Like I saw the freaking artificer in my D&D game at a home goods store a while back, and I was like, hey.
I think it's I know, and you want to laugh it off, and you want to be like, oh, it's dramatic and it's stupid, and I think especially when you're like queer or you're poly, you kind of expect to get a little more gossip about it. I think it's like, oh, there's more acceptance to letting people like nose around in your business because it's odd, and that might like lower our expectations of privacy.
Right. Yeah.
Not normally.
Yeah.
But
yeah, this is creepy. Really glad that OP was able to get such quick action. Like, already have a temporary restraining order. That's pretty bomb. I want to know where they live, because that was quick
that
shit.
also means that, like, if it was determined that they were in immediate danger, there may be more stuff that is not being discussed that they can't discuss because, court case. But that's like,
I was just gonna say, like, I am so aware that I could be getting on video at any time, because I'm like, I could be in the background of someone's Snapchat right now and yada, yada, yada. And so I'm always like, that's part of why I find going out in public so exhausting, because I think of how many fucking cameras there are that could catch me tripping because I'm clumsy as shit.
I think you're adorable when you trip, though.
Thanks. Okay. Any closing remarks about this one before I scoodle our boodle?
We love Ruby and Louie. Stay with them forever.
yes.
Or at least as long as it makes you happy. Make Ken go to prison.
Yes.
Okay. So when I saw the title for this post and was immediately like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So the title is Calling All Poly Pros. I Need Your Best Advice on Compartmentalization of Different Emotions. Please be gentle with me. I am a poly noob trying to do my best. So in short, I've been dating this new person, Arwen, for about 2.5 months, and it has been good, but we haven't really talked about like expectations and what we're doing, like casual friends with benefits, dating, becoming committed, whatever. But lately, I've been starting to realize that I'm catching feelings for this person, but I have no idea what she thinks or feels, and is giving me a whole lot of anxiety lately. So I do believe that the odds are not in my favor, unfortunately, and we need to have the talk. Next time I see her, it's probably going to lead to me having my heart broken. But anyway, we won't be seeing each other for another 2 weeks, and Arwen has expressed that she's uncomfortable with me having big relationship conversations over the phone. So I need to bide my time, and that's all understandable, I guess. So here's my predicament. Me and my long-term partner of 3 years, I'm going to call them Legolas because I'm goofy, are going on a very needed vacation, and I have some serious quality time together. We're going on vacation and to have some serious quality time together. I'm very happy about that, but I'm having a bit of a hard time compartmentalizing my anxiety and dread around this other person, and I want to give my long-term partner my full attention and my time, and not let anxiety ruin our vacation, but also Legolas isn't super comfortable with too many details about my other relationship and can't offer any support. And, I'm 100% okay with that. But, like, my loose plan is to be mindful, minimizing contact with the other person I'm seeing and taking breathers when I feel anxiety coming up. But it is going to be so hard. So please give me the best advice on how to handle this the best way possible. Oof.
Oh, no.
It's hard when your style of conflict is so different from someone else's. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh, but also,
And
also just like just to start like the compartmentalizing, like don't compartmentalize, like to be like, oh no, we're not talking about your other relationships. Like, you are cutting off so much of your life from somebody who's supposed to be such a big part of it.
yeah, like at minimum, be like, hey, I'm super anxious about this, and if I'm being weird, I'm sorry. And when you're having anxiety, be like, admit it. I'm sorry, I'm having anxiety.
It's obviously fair to want to be able to spend time, with your partner, on vacation, but it also, from a practical standpoint, you're going to get a lot further, giving them snuggles and validating their feelings so that they can work through them rather than, just sort of telling your partner that you don't have space for them. Like, I get it. And sometimes you don't. But like I said, just on a really practical standpoint, like, it's honestly going to affect y'all a lot less if you can be a small amount of emotionally available for a short period of time rather than having to just, deal with the fact that your partner is going to be kind of a wreck.
Yeah, like what if they're like, hey, you can have 15 minutes because that is all my emotional bandwidth is, but like to talk about what you need to talk about, I'm not going to have any advice, but like get it out of your system. You have 15 minutes so that you can like better focus on the day ahead. Or, something like that. Like that seems, reasonable. Like it won't work for everyone, but like it seems, like a reasonable ask of like support.
Sorry. But also, like, how have you not talked about like what you want, what your expectations are? Like,
fear of getting an answer you don't like.
But this. Oh my God! You just explained a massive conversation I had a while ago. Thank you. But like, I start off with like, hey, this is what I'm looking for.
But also remember,
Yeah.
this person specifically says that they're a poly noob. If you've been doing poly for 15 years, like both of us have, to be upfront about this kind of thing so that you don't run into this kind of problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's part of growing pains, is learning what questions you need to ask of people and learning what to look for. Okay, you ask the questions, even if they give you the right answers, there are things that you can tell about how someone responds to you, how much bandwidth they have to give to you. Even if they're telling you the things that they think that you want to hear so that you will date them.
That's a red flag.
Oh, yes. And
That's like the emotional equivalent of saying you have no limits in BDSM.
Right.
oh, no.
But something that like I want to suggest for like this person or someone in this kind of a situation, like I feel half of the anxiety about having these big conversations is in what we're saying and what we want to say and how we want to say it and how we want to, make sure our meaning gets across. So taking the time to journal about what you want to say in advance can solve, not solve, but like it can ease a lot of your anxiety because you have that, we're going to talk about this thing. But whereas like in the moment, you might get overwhelmed and forget all the points you wanted to talk about and then feel like you have to, work yourself up to another one of these conversations.
Oh, I had a thought. It's so important because you were talking about limits, and it's so important to understand yours. And I know it's hard when you're like new to something, you don't know how far you want to go, but it sounds like, this person really wants the NRE, the intense, intimate relationships, but then also has a partner who very much is like, I don't want to hear about your others. Like, they want that boundary. They want the compartmentalization.
They want that parallel poly.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be honest about yourself if that is what you want. But like for me, I'm like, it's okay if I don't get along with every meta that I have, or if like my partners don't necessarily love each other. Like, that's fine. I don't need that like perfect peace and cohesion as long as
You can be parallel with some partners and kitchen table with others.
yes,
And
yes, but you need to know if you need that from your partners.
It feels like they definitely need to have a conversation about where their needs are and ways that they can make each other feel secure.
Yeah.
Because like, obviously they're not going to have these conversations with Arwen right now, but maybe while they're on vacation with Legolas, like taking the time to really delve in on these issues that they may have, because it sounds like they might be kind of a just established couple that's opening up. Like, they're still new to poly, so it hasn't been the whole relationship. I'm wondering if maybe Arwen is like the OP's first real poly partner, just because it feels like they are kind of falling into some really, you know, really early on potholes.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of not realizing the different types of poly. Because, like, some people compartmentalize wonderfully, and some people are like, I need to know everybody who's involved.
Well, and
like also finding ways to like have the support from your partner without putting them in an uncomfortable position too. Like, they can be like, hey, I just need to cry for a bit. Can you pet my hair and tell me that I'm going to be loved no matter what happens? And, you know, just have that moment. You don't have to be like, I need this moment because I'm really afraid of a conversation that I'm going to have with my other partner. And you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to go that way. You can just get the comfort that you need without also compromising your partner's boundaries about that.
But I think you also have to be honest that, like, if you need more than like the petting of the head, you need someone who is going to talk it out with you. Don't stay with someone who won't.
Yeah. Or, you know, just, like reconsider exactly how everything's kind of falling. Like, long-term partner doesn't have to mean primary. Long-term partner doesn't have to mean escalator, you know, on the relationship escalator together. Any thoughts before I share the update? So the update, I will tell you, is 2 posts that I trimmed together because this person is having a shit time, but they ramble a lot. So I just kind of went trim.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of relationships at this point. I was in a long-term relationship that was parallel. I was in a long-term relationship that was kitchen table. You know, obviously Holly and I have had some we've had, you know, more experiences with each other than your standard metas.
I'm a lucky girl.
Yeah, but that was also not something that anybody was sort of expecting when we first, you know, when she and I first started communicating. We started flirting basically on our own. We were communicating because we were metas, but that, you know, we did our own thing.
Yeah, but then I did my thing where I went, okay, but you're cute and I do kind of want to make out with you.
I mean, you did, but there was not an expectation that you would do that thing. So
I do think I surprised you with
you
that
absolutely did. I was not expecting.
I think I surprised our poor little Hinge
You did. He was not expecting any of this, and I don't think he was in any way sorry about any of it. Poor sweet little.
Oh, because he was expecting me to be jealous. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I see what you like. Why would I be jelly?
I was having some feels because, you know, y'all were running off for your weekend together. And like, I was trying to go out of my way to make sure that I wasn't interfering, that I was staying the fuck out of the way. And I'm over here going, oh God, 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 oh God. And, you know, going through all of my various feels because, you know, you were the established partner and I was the newbie.
Oh, but it was so cute because he was so smitten with you. And I'm like, I have to meet this girl. She sounds fantastic.
So anyway, my point here, though, is that, like, you know, I'm looking at this and going, okay, what are the reasons behind all these boundaries? Like, what needs are everybody trying to get met? Because sometimes the boundary does actually succeed at meeting it, but really often it doesn't. I think they need to ask that question. I think Legolas needs to ask that question because there are various reasons that boundary can be set. And sometimes that boundary is not going to actually meet the needs that the boundary is attempting to meet.
Yeah, like making the boundary in a sense of like to treat a symptom rather than like to get to the root of what's needed. It's just kind of like Band-Aid.
And that happens with poly noobs all the time.
Band-Aid boundaries.
Yeah, because you don't know what they are yet, and you're just kind of making them up as you go based on like what you think they're supposed to look like.
I was just rereading this update. It honestly, a lot of it reads to me as the woe is me. I opened up my relationship and it went badly because I'm a shitty Hinge and NRE is a hell of a drug, and like it's just. Post title that caught my eye was "Don't be stupid like me," and then follows up with "and annihilate a 3-year-long amazing relationship because you're too stubborn to listen to the general advice on here of not opening up a relationship." Yeah, it says they tried to open the relationship for about 2 years. OP thought they could handle it. They couldn't. In the end, they ended up fucking up repeatedly because they're a noob. They said 0.1% of relationships survive the transition to polyamory. Hormones and NRE and attachment issues are not to be taken lightly. Like, no shit.
I have to say, it reeks to me of like rejection sensitivity. And I feel for that because those things hurt. Like, they hurt so bad. And especially when it's new and it's like the first time and like you thought this was going to be like the end all be all. But like,
I'm also looking at this, huge amount of self-blame that this person is giving themselves. And, oh my God, I fucked everything up. I torpedoed those 3-year relationship with my partner. Now, they're not giving details. And I know you said that this is, two posts you kind of condensed down into one, but there are no details here. We don't know what they did. We don't know how it went down. We just know that everything ended.
Yeah, like, did they absolutely fuck up the trip that they were going on, or like what happened?
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that, no. And that kind of gave me a little sus.
Like, this seems like they're blaming themselves for something that.
Yep. Okay, so y'all are offering so much like kindness and understanding to this person. Meanwhile, I have a telenovela going on in my head because, okay, so their last line says, so aside from trying to fix this mess and take my head out of my own ass, it looks like I really need to work on my self-soothing techniques, impulsivity, and to create a secure attachment with myself. In my little dummy brain of like, wonder what happened. I wonder what happened. I have the headcanon that OP was so intent on having this conversation with Arwen, like they were stressing about it, they were freaking out about it, that they impulsively left the vacation that they were on to just go have a quick conversation or whatever,
Oh no.
or, like, fully left it, like they just needed to go have this conversation and then they would be okay. And like, because their attachment with their long-term partner is secure, it's like when it's like kids act up, with their parents because
Right,
that's where
exactly,
they feel safe
yeah.
and secure. And that's why I didn't act up as a kid.
Yeah.
But so, they kind of like, maybe it feels like they maybe brushed off, their partner in order to self-soothe and do something impulsive. And to me, that screams of, hold on, I need to go talk to this person right now. But that's just my head telenovela.
And that actually goes like all the way back to some of our earlier stuff we were talking about of like, sometimes you need to have space, but also like, if you need space and the other person can't handle it, like, write it down. Google
Exactly.
Docs and Google Calendar will fix your poly.
Or at least
Also,
they will
Lyn,
help.
For real though, like,
Also,
Yeah.
Lyn, like, we might need to unpack some of what you said because I caught that.
no, we're good. That's not what this episode's about. But so, like talking about having different styles of conflict and whatnot, Google Docs really was super helpful for me because I needed to get my piece out and say it, but my partner wasn't in the place to hear it at the time. And they need a lot of time to think about their response, whereas like having the conversation in the moment, they often people please in the moment because they get so caught up in that anxiety. They have difficult conversations. So I was able to write out all of my feelings in a Google Doc and then just send it to them and let them respond in their own time, and they were able to like highlight parts and reply to specific parts and stuff like that and like ask questions and all of these things that kind of wouldn't have been possible in a face-to-face conversation.
Yes.
And honestly helped me feel like the conversation was had in a more thorough way, which is just me being but yeah, so OP, you going through a fucking time. Yeah, opening relationships is real hard. Yeah, hormones, NRE, and attachment issues are some big fucking issues to work on. But those would be, issues in monogamy too. Like, people get head over heels with someone in 2 months and then that's all they think about for the next 2.5 years was that 2 months where everything was perfect, and things could go back to that again.
It'll never
But,
go
like,
back. Don't do it. It's
yeah,
not
you
as
just gotta like
not as good as you thought.
Yep.
Yeah, consider, like how your needs were being met, how your needs weren't being met. Like maybe y'all were just incompatible. 3 years is a lot of time, but sometimes people just be incompatible. And like, you can always work on your shit and maybe, go back to having a relationship with Legolas, take time, make amends, yada, yada. But right now, you got some shit to work on. And everybody does, but you got some shit to work on.
But also, good on you for sending this wall of text into the abyss and unfortunately getting picked up by us. And not sending this...
Thanks for the content, babe.
but not sending this to, like, Arwen or Legolas. Because that...
I wonder if they did, though.
Oh my god, because that wall... Like, when you open your phone and the entire text takes up the whole page, especially if you, like, use small font.
Yeah.
You're like, I know, like, whatever is in here is just going to be a hot mess.
Oh, yeah.
And it's worse if it's a weird hour.
Yeah, and I am a little bit biased against this because my mom was the sort of person that, like, whenever we had conflict, it went to, I'm the worst ever, and I can't do anything right, and I just suck, and yada yada, and this.
Oh, and that's manipulative.
Because
it forces
deeply.
you to because it forces you to soothe and comfort the person who.
Yeah.
And that's the thing of, like, sometimes, like, apologies and self-deprecation is not the answer. Like, do self-reflection instead.
Self-deprecate to a degree, and then make amends.
Like not even that. Like, going, like, I'm so sorry. Like, that was awful, and I'm a bad person for doing. Like, no, don't do that. Stop.
That was inconsiderate of me. What a
like,
duty head.
Just stop.
Yeah.
And ask what you did wrong. Understand from your partner, because sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. It's just not working anymore, and it's not about you, and that's okay.
Well, and the sheer, I know I keep using the term self-blame, but that's what shows up here is the just, it was me, it's all my fault, like, it sometimes that comes out of a previously abusive scenario where you're basically trying to short circuit the other person basically laying into you, like,
well, because when you're being abused, it's
yeah,
never
like
the
if you
abuser's
say it
fault.
about yourself, they can't say it to you and hurt you with the words. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, I know this is going to be a struggle, but if you could sum up one sentence worth of a survival tip for someone in polyamory, what would it be? I know. I'm just trying to save Sloane some time by being like, one sentence. Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out how to put this into a condensed into the Reader's Digest condensed version. Investigate your needs.
Love it.
This is
Mine. Go ahead.
no,
go
Lyn,
ahead.
give yours.
Mine would be to clarify all important conversation at the end of the conversation.
It's a good one.
I have a two-pronged thought, so I'm going to try and abbreviate as much as I can. I know I babbled too much.
Two-prong, one sentence.
Sloane, I love you. Please forgive me for this one. So ask questions all the time. Ask to understand, ask to get what you want, and never be afraid to ask for something, but be prepared to accept no with grace.
Accept no with grace. Fuck yeah. I love that after that other one.
There's nothing normal about relationships. Like, talk about them. Ask questions. Ask for things.
Okay. I normally would end with one of our palate cleanser stories, but we have talked about so much cute and wholesome stuff throughout this one that honestly, I think we are good. I instead will close it with the palate cleanser of just reminding you all that polyamory is a real fucking powerful form of networking. This podcast exists because of a weird polyamorous web of originally thinking we were going to be able to do one podcast and then working together in a communist creation of this podcast and then realizing, oh my God, it's so much fucking work.
Oh, yeah.
It like polyamory is so much more than just like dating a bunch of people. It's forming communities and forming these connections with other people. And there is so much support out there that if you are stuck, somewhere where polyamory is super, frowned upon and there's no sort of polyamorous community and it's important to you, I might prioritize moving somewhere where there is one or finding an online polyamorous community or something like that, because it's just cool as hell the way that people can make things happen for each other when they care and they have a good heart behind things.
Or start an underground community yourself. Go for it.
Yeah.
We have faith in you.
Start that shit.
But also, like, just to cap, poly Because you were saying like working so hard for the podcast, and it's like poly is work.
Yeah.
Everything is work, but it's fun work with the right people.
It's work like tilling a garden
Is
is
the
work.
work
It's
worth
not
it
work
at the
like
end of the
trying to
day?
take down a brick wall with a toothpick is work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard work like a painting, like making a vase, like all of the wonderful things that people occupy their time with. And I'm going to say this 1,000,001 times, polyamory isn't for everyone, but make the informed choice. And learning where your kind of faults lie within polyamory gives you a better basis to go out into the world and fix those things and figure out those things, even if you end up monogamous, you know?
But
Okay,
even poly
so,
can help monogamous relationships. It's great experiences.
Exactly.
We are always learning.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us today. I hope y'all had a wonderful time. If you really enjoyed this episode, we appreciate you. Please let us know by dropping a 5-star review or a really interesting review, you know, that's funny enough we might read it. In the meantime, make sure to follow us at Metamour Pod on most social medias. We also have a subreddit by the same name where you can share your stories, and we have an email if you want to send us questions or brag. Please send us stories of bragging about how wonderful it's going for you. The world's too full of the dark stuff. But you can send that stuff to metamourpod@gmail.com. Now, my lovely co-host, if people would like to find more from you, where can they get you? Oh, sorry, before I forget, if you want to ask a question to Nita or Holly directly, put the episode number in the subject line of your email, and if we get enough questions, we can have them back on for another episode, maybe. But, co-hosts, tell people about yourself, what you got going on, where to find you, etc.
I'm currently beginning the sort of bedrock of a new project. You can find me still at lovely.littlelesbian on Instagram, and we're going to grow from there, but I'll try to post everything there for now.
Yeah, I got nothing. Sorry.
It's all right. You got a wonderful voice and a great personality, and let's get out of here before this becomes a longer love fest. Love you, Sloane. Thanks for putting up with us. Bye, audience.
Love you all.
Metamour Than You Bargained For is a production of Roll to Finish LLC. I've been your host, Lyn Lawless, and our producer, editor, and all-around badass was Sloane Abbott. We got a audio engineer, Kel Fernandez, and that's all the stuff that I have to say legally. Get out of here. Bye.